A half-eaten dinner, a child's backpack slumped by the door, a TV flickering static into an empty room. No blood, no struggle, just absence. On October 23rd, 1987, John, Marianne, Lucy, and Sam Wells vanished from their quiet Vermont home as if the world itself had plucked them from existence. But here's what chills me: they didn't run. They didn't hide. They left behind every trace of their lives, except the one that matters. What erases a family without a single scream? A quiet house on a winding suburban street. A porch light glows. Fall leaves rustle in the dark. Inside, a family of 4 sits down to dinner. Nothing out of the ordinary. But by sunrise, they're gone. Not a single dish is cleared. The clock ticks past midnight, frozen. A child's half-finished math worksheet waits on the table. A coffee cup still warm. No shattered glass. No slammed doors. No footprints in the yard. Just stillness. How does an entire family, John, Marianne, Lucy, and Sam Wells, disappear in the span of a single October night? No struggle. No trail. No answers. Only a question that has clawed at this town for decades. If they didn't run, what in the world happened to them? Let's rewind. Picture a Vermont autumn in 1987. Crunchy leaves, chimney smoke, pumpkin patches. The kind of town where kids bike home before streetlights flicker on. This is where the Wells family lived. Not just lived, they thrived. John Wells, the high school math teacher who stayed late to tutor struggling students. His wife, Marianne, the pediatric nurse who sang lullabies to newborns in the hospital nursery. Their daughter, Lucy, 8 years old, with a gap-toothed grin and an obsession with collecting ladybugs. And little Sam, 5, who carried a toy fire truck everywhere, convinced he'd grow up to save the world. They were the family you'd wave to on your way to work. The ones who hosted backyard barbecues every 4th of July, handing out sparklers to the neighborhood kids. The kind of people who'd leave a freshly baked casserole on your porch if you'd had a bad day. Their town, Hollowbrook, wasn't just safe, it was sleepy. A place where front doors stayed unlocked, car keys dangled in ignitions, and the biggest scandal was Mrs. Peterson's prize roses getting trampled by deer. Everyone knew the Wells family. John's students joked about his corny math puns. Marianne's co-workers admired her habit of stitching tiny stars into the blankets of sick children. Even Lucy's teacher kept a jar on her desk for Lucy's ladybug rescue missions. But here's what no one saw coming. On October 23, 1987, Hollowbrook's unshakable rhythm stopped. Because the family who'd woven themselves into the fabric of that town, the ones who defined normal, vanished. And the worst part, the clues weren't in their past. They were in the life they left behind. A life so ordinary, so good, that to this day neighbors still ask, how do you suspect the people who never gave you a reason to? It began with a single empty desk. October 24, 1987. A crisp Friday morning at Hollowbrook Elementary. Lucy Wells' 3rd-grade classmates shuffled into room 12, hanging backpacks on hooks, giggling about weekend plans. But Lucy's seat stayed empty. No pink lunchbox. No ladybug doodles in the margins of her notebook. Just sunlight pooling over an unused chair. Her teacher, Mrs. Rita Cole, didn't panic. Not yet. Kids get sick. Cars break down. But by noon, when Lucy still hadn't arrived, Mrs. Cole dialed the Wells house. No answer. She tried again after school. And again. And again. By dusk, worry hardened into dread. Mrs. Cole called Marianne's workplace, St. Mary's Children's Hospital. But Marianne hadn't shown up for her shift. No one had called in. No note. Nothing. At 7:03 p.m., a neighbor, Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, a retired nurse with a habit of watering her roses at sunset, noticed the Wells porch light burning. Odd, she thought. The family always turned it off by 6:30. She knocked. No answer. The door creaked open under her hand. What she found inside would haunt her forever. The house was silent. Not the quiet of emptiness, but the thick, heavy silence of a paused tape. A half-eaten meatloaf sat congealing on the dining table. 4 plates. 4 forks. A glass of milk spilled near Lucy's chair, soaked into the carpet like a ghostly stain. Upstairs, Sam's pajamas were laid out on his bed, tiny dinosaur print, waiting for a boy who never came home. In the living room, the TV hummed static, its blue glow flickering over a couch still dented from where someone had sat. A crossword puzzle lay abandoned on the coffee table, John's pen resting on the clue for 7 down, sudden disappearance, 5 letters. But the real horror was in the details. Lucy's backpack slumped by the door, her homework half finished. A spelling test scored 98 out of 100, fluttered on the kitchen counter. Sam's favorite stuffed bear, Mr. Bristles, lay face down on the stairs, one button eye dangling by a thread. Marianne's purse hung on its usual hook. Wallet inside, cash untouched, car keys missing. Except the family car, still parked in the driveway. Police arrived within minutes. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints but the family's. No blood. No mud. No torn curtains or toppled lamps. Just life interrupted. The fridge held groceries bought that morning. Eggs, orange juice, a birthday cake for Sam, whose 6th birthday was 3 days away. Frosting letters spelled "Happy Birthday, Sam" in bright blue. John's lesson plan sat neatly on his desk, grades logged up until October 23rd. A sticky note read, "Quiz Monday, remind Lucy to study." In Lucy's room, her ladybug jar sat by the window, lid off. A single ladybug crawled across the glass. But the most chilling detail? The clocks. Every clock in the house had stopped at 9:17 p.m. The microwave, the VCR, even the antique cuckoo clock in the hallway, its wooden bird frozen mid-chirp. Investigators later confirmed a power surge hit the neighborhood that night, but only the Wells clocks froze. Every other house reset. For days, police combed the property. 9 units sniffed the woods. Divers dragged the nearby river. Helicopters buzzed overhead, scanning fall-bare trees for a flash of color, a scrap of clothing. Nothing. Neighbors were interviewed. Had they heard screams? Seen strangers? Noticed anything off? Old Mr. Thompson, who lived across the street, swore he'd seen John taking out the trash at 9 p.m., waved to him even. Said John seemed quieter than usual, but chalked it up to tiredness. The Millers next door recalled Sam laughing in the backyard around dusk, chasing fireflies. Just a normal night, they said. Until it wasn't. But one detail gnawed at investigators: Marianne's keys. They weren't in her purse. Not in the house. Not in the car. Gone. Did someone take them? Did she take them? Theories spiraled. Had the family been lured outside, forced into another vehicle? But why leave the door open? Why not scream? Why not fight? Forensic teams found no tire marks beyond the family's own driveway. No fingerprints on the TV remote but John's. No foreign DNA on the half-drunk milk glass. It was as if the Wells family had simply stepped out. But here's what keeps detectives awake. Sam's asthma inhaler sat on the bathroom sink. He needed it twice a day. Lucy's epilepsy medication, pills she couldn't skip without risking a seizure, remained sealed in the cabinet. They wouldn't have left voluntarily. Not without those. So what happened in those frozen hours between 9:17 p.m. and sunrise? A knock at the door? A voice through the window? A threat so sudden, so terrifying, that 4 people fled without shoes, without coats, without a single cry for help? Or worse, did they never leave at all? To this day, the house stands as they left it. Dust coats the birthday cake. Lucy's spelling test yellows under decades of sunlight. And Mr. Bristles the bear still waits on the stairs, one eye staring. Blindly at the front door, as if hoping any second it'll creak open. But it never does. The first 48 hours were chaos. Police swarmed the Wells home. Flashlights cut through the dark. Evidence bags multiplied. Neighbors huddled on lawns, whispering as detectives marched in and out. But the longer they searched, the clearer it became. This wasn't a crime scene. It was a riddle. No broken windows. No scuff marks on the floor. No signs of a fight. The family's beds were neatly made. Dishes sat rinsed in the sink. Even the trash had been taken out. It looked less like a disappearance and more like someone had pressed pause on their lives. Right in the middle of dinner. Fingerprints? Only the Wells family's. DNA? Just their own. Phone records showed no strange calls. No letters. No journal entries hinting at fear or plans to flee. John's bank account held $4,328.17, untouched. Marianne's nursing license renewal form sat stamped and ready to mail. They dug deeper. Detectives interviewed coworkers, friends, even Lucy's classmates. Did John have gambling debts? Did Marianne argue with the patient's family? Was there a secret lover? A grudge? Nothing. John's colleagues called him a quiet family man. His students adored him. One girl tearfully recalled how he'd stay after school to help her with algebra, even though she sucked at math. Marianne's hospital coworkers described her as the calmest person in the room, a nurse who could soothe screaming toddlers and panicked parents with the same gentle smile. Even the town itself offered no leads. Hollowbrook had no crime to speak of. The last major incident was a stolen bicycle in 1982, and it was returned the next day. Then on day 3, a break. Detective Roy Walsh searched John's classroom. In his desk drawer, tucked under a stack of graded papers, he found a folded map of rural Maine. A red marker circled a patch of forest near the Canadian border. No notes, no explanation, just a single word scribbled in the margin: quiet. The next morning, a team of 30 officers and search dogs descended on the area. They hacked through thick pines, scanned abandoned cabins, even checked remote hunting lodges. For days, they shouted the family's names into the silence. They found nothing. No campfire ashes, no candy wrappers, not even a footprint. Back in Hollowbrook, rumors boiled over. Some claimed John had a secret survivalist brother, last seen in Maine in 1985. Others whispered about a government cover-up. A local mechanic insisted he'd seen a black SUV parked near the Wells house that week, but couldn't recall the license plate. Then, in 1992, a glimmer of hope. A hiker named Carl Riggs stumbled into a Vermont police station, sunburned and shaking. He'd been backpacking near the Maine border when he stopped at a diner in a town called Bowers Creek. There, he swore, a waitress who looked exactly like Marianne Wells served him coffee. She had that same birthmark, he said, pointing to his left eyebrow. And when I said thank you, she did this thing, twisted her wedding ring like she was nervous. Just like the photos you showed on the news. Detectives raced to Bowers Creek. The diner was real. The coffee stains on the counter were real. But the waitress? Gone. The owner, a gruff man named Hank, said a woman matching Marianne's description had worked there for 2 weeks. Called herself Maggie. Kept to herself. Always looked over her shoulder. Then one day she didn't show up. Left her apron hanging in the back. Police found fingerprints on a coffee pot. They matched Marianne's. For a moment, the case crackled back to life. Had she been alive all along? Where were John and the kids? Was she running from someone or with someone? But the trail ended there. No Maggie. No Marianne. No whispers in other towns. Just a cold coffee pot and a frayed apron. Over the years, other sightings trickled in. A truck driver swore he saw Lucy, now a teenager, buying gum at a Nevada gas station. A schoolteacher in Oregon insisted Sam sat in her 3rd grade class, though records showed he'd be 21 by then. Each lead was chased. Each dissolved like smoke. Forensic teams revisited the Wells house in 2001. New technology. New eyes. They sprayed luminol, searching for hidden bloodstains. Scanned walls for bullet holes. Tested the half-eaten meatloaf for poison. Still nothing. The case grew colder. Detectives retired. Files yellowed. But one question haunted everyone who worked on it. How do 4 people leave behind everything, medication, money, even a child's stuffed bear, but take nothing? Not a single photograph. Not a family heirloom. Not even Sam's toy fire truck. In 2015, a retired detective Walsh gave one final interview. That map, he said, voice cracking. I think about it every day. Why Maine? Was it a plan? A warning? A red herring? And that word, quiet. Was he describing the woods? Or was it a message? He paused, staring at the ceiling. We failed them, not because we didn't try, but because this wasn't a puzzle meant to be solved. Today, the Wells case remains open. The map sits in an evidence locker, edges frayed. Marianne's apron hangs in a sealed bag. And somewhere, in a diner that no longer exists, a fingerprint lingers, a ghost of a woman who may have vanished twice. But the hardest truth, the most terrifying clue of all, sometimes the absence of evidence isn't a dead end. It's an answer. When a family vanishes into thin air, people invent stories to fill the silence. The Wells case became a mirror, reflecting every fear, fantasy, and conspiracy imaginable. But peel back the rumors, and you're left with the same chilling question. How? Let's start with the simplest theory, the one that almost makes sense. They ran. Maybe John and Marianne packed the kids into a car, drove into the night, and started over. But here's the problem. Why leave everything behind? Sam's asthma inhaler, Lucy's life-saving medication, Marianne's wedding ring, John's entire paycheck. You don't abandon a birthday cake for a child you plan to take with you. You don't leave your daughter's epilepsy pills in the cabinet if you're trying to keep her alive. And you certainly don't vanish without a single withdrawal from your bank account. Unless it wasn't voluntary. Cue the whispers about witness protection. A new identity, a fresh start. But the U.S. Marshals don't stage disappearances like this. They don't leave homes frozen in time or clocks stopped at 9:17 p.m. They don't let families vanish mid-bite of meatloaf. And why the Wells? John graded papers. Marianne swaddled newborns. There's no hint of mob ties, whistleblowing, or secrets worth hiding. The government doesn't relocate people for being too ordinary. Then there's the brother, John's older sibling Daniel Wells, a man who'd vanished 2 years before the family did. A survivalist, a loner, a man who reportedly stockpiled canned goods and ranted about the end of the world. Could he have swooped in, convinced the family to flee society, and taken them to some off-grid bunker? Maybe, but Daniel hadn't spoken to John in years. Neighbors said the brothers had a falling out over money. One so bitter, John removed Daniel's photos from the family albums. And even if Daniel did return, how do you persuade a nurse, a teacher, and 2 young kids to abandon their lives without a trace? Without a single goodbye? The answer, some say, is force. Which brings us to the darkest theories. A home invasion, a kidnapping, a hitman, but again, no signs of struggle. No rope fibers, no gunpowder residue, no blood. If someone threatened them, why didn't they scream? Why didn't neighbors hear a car screech away? And why take the entire family? Hostages are leverage. But 4 hostages? That's a liability. Then there's the neighbor, old Mr. Thompson, who lived across the street, swore he heard shouting from the Wells house around 9 p.m., John's voice, he said. Sharp, like he was angry. Then a crash, maybe a plate breaking. But police found no shattered dishes, no cracks in the walls, no evidence of a fight. When pressed, Mr. Thompson admitted it could have been his TV, or the wind, or his ears, which he later confessed weren't what they used to be. But people latched onto that crash. Maybe it was a struggle. Maybe the family was subdued quickly. Maybe the scene was cleaned up. Ah, yes, the perfect crime theory. A killer so meticulous they scrubbed every fingerprint, every hair, every drop of evidence. But even professionals leave traces. And why stage such an elaborate scene? Why leave the TV on? The homework out? The clock's frozen? It feels less like a cover-up and more like a taunt. Which brings us to the fringe. Ufologists point to the stopped clocks. Electromagnetic interference, they say. A craft hovering overhead, freezing time, plucking the family into the stars. But the power surge that night hit the whole grid, and every other house reset. Except the Wells. Why? Then there's the thin veil crowd. Ghosts. Portals. Alternate dimensions. They cite Sam's toy fire truck, found pointing toward the basement door. A sign, they say. A door that shouldn't have been opened. But the basement was empty. Just a washing machine and a dusty toolbox. Even time travel gets a nod. Online forums buzz about John's circled map of Maine. Quiet wasn't a note, it was a warning, one user writes. They stepped into a rift. A place where time doesn't move. But then where's the rift? Where's the proof? The truth is every theory unravels. Take the diner sighting. Marianne's fingerprint in Maine. If she was alive in 1992, why didn't she run to police? Why work a diner under her real name? And if she was on the lam, where are John and the kids? Dead? Held hostage? The math doesn't add up. Even the perfect family angle collapses. Yes, they seemed happy, but secrets fester in quiet places. Did John have a second life? Was Marianne hiding an affair? Dig deeper, and you hit walls. Co-workers, friends, even Lucy's diary, filled with doodles of ladybugs and rainbows. Nothing hints at rot beneath the surface. So where does that leave us? With the unthinkable. Maybe the Wells family didn't run, didn't hide, didn't die. Maybe they slipped through a crack in the world, leaving behind only the echo of their absence. Maybe the answer isn't in the clues, but in the lack of them. A mystery so flawless, so airless it can't be solved, only endured. Or maybe, just maybe, the truth is simpler. Someone knows. Someone out there. A man who heard a whimper in the woods. A woman who recognizes Lucy's smile in an old photo. A deathbed confession waiting to be whispered. But until then, the theories keep spinning. Shadows in the dark, grasping at a family that left no shadow at all. There's a house on Willow Lane that no one will buy. Its paint peels like dead skin. Its windows stare like hollow eyes. For over 30 years, it sat untouched, not abandoned, but waiting. Because in Hollowbrook, Vermont, the Wells family didn't just vanish. They left a ghost behind, and a town forever holding its breath. Time moves differently here. Walk through Hollowbrook today, and you'll feel it, a tension humming beneath the surface. The kind that makes parents call their kids home a little earlier. That has neighbors locking doors they once left open. That turns ordinary sounds, a creaking gate, a rustling bush, into heart-stopping warnings. The Wells house still stands. The town council voted to demolish it twice. Both times, protests erupted. It's their home, argued Lucy's childhood friend, Sarah Mills, now a mother of 3. What if they come back and it's gone? So it remains, a museum of absence. Locals avoid Willow Lane after dark. They say you can hear things, a child's laughter echoing from empty rooms, the faint smell of meatloaf wafting through broken vents, a TV flickering in an upstairs window, though the power's been cut for decades. But the real haunting isn't in the house. It's in the people. Every October 23rd, Lucy's third-grade desk at Hollowbrook Elementary is dusted off. Her classmates, now in their 40s, place fresh flowers on it. Pink carnations, her favorite. They bring their own kids now, who leave ladybug stickers and handwritten notes. We miss you, Lucy. Sam's birthday is harder. November 2nd. For years, Marianne's co-workers at St. Mary's Hospital baked a cake, just like the one left uneaten in 1987. They'd sing happy birthday to an empty chair. But as nurses retired, the tradition faded. Now it's just a single cupcake left on the hospital steps. Vanilla with blue frosting. Always gone by morning. And then there are the tips. In 2005, a blurry Polaroid surfaced at a Maine flea market. It showed a woman in a diner, her face turned away, hair streaked with gray. On the back, scribbled in pencil, "Tell them I'm sorry." Handwriting analysts said it could be Marianne's. But by the time police arrived, the vendor had vanished. In 2012, a letter arrived at the police station. No return address, just a child's shaky cursive. "I'm not allowed to say where I am, but I have Mr. Bristles. Please don't stop looking." The stuffed bear's name had never been made public. Forensics found no fingerprints, no DNA, just the ache of maybe. The worst part? The hope. In 2018, a construction crew digging near the Old Wells property hit something metal. A time capsule, buried by John's students in 1986. Inside, alongside baseball cards and mixtapes, was a note from Lucy. "When I'm grown up, I want to be a scientist and solve mysteries. P.S. Dad says I have to share the capsule with Sam, but he's a baby, so he doesn't get it." The town sobbed. Even the skeptics crack. Take retired Detective Roy Walsh, who spent 20 years on the case. He keeps a photo of the family above his desk. "I promised Lucy's grandma I'd find them," he told a reporter last year. She died in 99. Never took down Lucy's Christmas stocking. But Hollowbrook's grief has claws. Some families moved away, unable to shake the dread. Others lean into it. The local diner sells a Wells burger. Hold the onions, John was allergic. Teens dare each other to touch the house's front door on Halloween. Tourists snap photos, oblivious to the woman down the street who still sets an extra plate at Thanksgiving. And the rumors? They've become folklore. Old Mrs. Hayes, the neighbor who found the house, claims she once saw Sam's face in her bathroom mirror, older, scarred, mouthing help. A mail carrier swears he saw Marianne standing in the attic window in 2015, wearing the same floral dress she'd vanished in. She waved, he insists. Then poof, gone. The truth? No one knows. But everyone feels it, the absence that never fades. At town meetings, when someone says, "Nothing bad happens here," the room freezes. Because it did. Because it can. The Wells family didn't just disappear. They ripped the innocence out of Hollowbrook and left a hole no theory can fill. So the house remains. The desk waits. The clocks stay stuck. And every night, as streetlights flicker on, someone always glances at Willow Lane. Just in case. Just in case the porch light glows again. Just in case the door creaks open. Just in case, after all this time, the world decides to give them back. But the street stays dark, and the town keeps waiting. There's a truth about vanishings, they don't end. They ripple. Through time. Through generations. Through every person who stares a little too long at an empty chair. The Wells family didn't just disappear. They became a question mark etched into the world. And questions like that, they outlive us all. Think about the house on Willow Lane. The one with the porch light that never turns off. The one where autumn leaves pile up on the doorstep, untouched. It's not just a building. It's a shrine to the unknown. A place where maybe hangs thicker than dust. What happened that night? We've dissected the facts, chased the shadows, dug into every theory. But the harder we claw for answers, the faster they slip away. Maybe the Wells family had a secret, a debt, a threat, a truth so dangerous, it forced them to dissolve into the dark. Or maybe the danger found them, a predator no one saw coming, a nightmare that left no fingerprints. Or perhaps it was something stranger, a door that shouldn't have opened, a choice to step sideways out of reality, to become ghosts before they were gone. But here's what keeps me up at night. They didn't take Sam's bear. Think about that. A child's most precious thing, left face down on the stairs. If you were running, wouldn't you grab it? If you were taken, wouldn't you fight to hold on? That bear isn't just a toy. It's a scream in the form of thread and stuffing. A scream no one heard. And yet, their story lives. In the flowers on Lucy's desk. In the birthday cupcakes that vanish. In the way strangers still pore over the case files, desperate to find the crack in the mystery. Because the Wells family didn't just leave a house behind. They left a hole in the universe. One that pulls at anyone who dares to look. We may never know what happened, but that's the cruelty of unsolved mysteries. They deny us endings. No closure. No graves to visit. Just a relentless, whispering maybe. Maybe they're out there. Maybe they're watching. Maybe the answer is hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to connect the dots. If you know anything about the Wells family, no detail is too small. Call the Vermont Cold Case Unit. And if this story lingers in your mind like it does in mine, share it. Tag someone. Post it. Talk about it. Because sometimes, the truth isn't found in evidence rooms or headlines. It's found in the quiet moments someone remembers and finally speaks up.